Today's topic is what webinar platforms work best with Kajabi. 3 tools that you can use to create webinars for selling your course or membership. Now, why would you use a webinar instead of Facebook Live? Well, obviously, in the perfect world, you would probably use both. The webinar, though, always captures the attendee's email address, which allows you to do the very, very important email follow-up. There's some other ways you could probably get around that, and we're going to talk about that when I talk about one of these tools. But the goal is you want people to register. So first of all, you want people to register so that you have that very important email address for your follow-up. And you could do something like create an opt-in page that then they have to go through that to get to your Facebook Live. It's a little convoluted and it's a lot of different steps. And typically the webinar platforms also record it just like a Facebook Live, and you can make the replay available to people who missed the webinar, but not make it public. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, a Facebook Live is going to be on your Facebook page, and it's going to be publicly available for everybody to watch, that's a good thing. But again, you're not getting their email address. I typically always warn people or advise people to keep 2 things in mind when you're evaluating a tech tool: that you can spend your time or you can spend your money. There is a correlation that I've found, I feel, between the level of time that is involved on your part to make a tool work and the cost of that tool. And they kind of work in inverse. The least expensive tool may require more of your time to set up and actually implement. The more you have to pay for a tool, the more features and primarily more features that you have, more things that it will do for you, and it'll take less of your time. There we go. And the first tool I am going to share with you is Demio. Now, I mentioned that I followed Amy Porterfield's recommendations, and she had previously recommended using Zoom as your webinar platform. We will talk about Zoom in a second. But then they updated their recommendations to include Demio. Now, Demio, as I mentioned, is the most expensive option, but it does have some specific functionality that work really, really well. And one of those things is, in addition to allowing you to create a webinar, creating a web registration page and having you create the webinar, it also creates a platform where you can take that webinar and basically create an evergreen webinar funnel. It's going to display the recording and allow you to drive traffic as a evergreen webinar. And that just simply means that recording lives on forever and people can register to watch it, and you can then direct them to a sales page. So that's a really great advantage that the other tools do not have. Those of you that have been in the game a while, you know, of course, there's EverWebinar, and EverWebinar is specifically designed for that. But Demio kind of marries and creates the best of both worlds. Again, this is Demio. I would highly recommend, they have a full software comparison here. So pricing on Demio is, like everyone, they have monthly and an annual opportunity. You can get a 14-day trial. If you're going to do monthly, and probably you're going to do monthly because you're not necessarily going to be doing webinars all the time, right? So it's a total of $49 a month. And it's kind of a small attendee level, 50 attendees. Now, if the average number of people that show up for a webinar are 25 to 30%, well, then you can estimate whether that's going to be good enough for you. Or for 1 month, maybe you take the $99 a month option and then downgrade or, suspend the account or whatever you need to do. But that's my first recommendation. I like Demio. There was a lot of opportunity to make it work very beautifully with Kajabi, passing the information using Zapier. And I really, really liked it. Now, the second option, which probably most of you are familiar with, is Zoom. Zoom has a lot of great features because you can use Zoom for meetings, you can use Zoom for webinars, you can apparently use Zoom to go live on Facebook, although obviously, as I stated, that didn't work for me this morning. And Zoom also works with Kajabi, but there's also still some work that you need to do to make it work. One of the recommendations through Amy's Digital Course Academy with Zoom was that when you clicked the registration button on your Kajabi webinar registration page, that it actually goes direct into Zoom, to the Zoom page, and not actually using Kajabi itself for the registration like we just did with Demio. That's not a bad option. It's not terrible. Like I said, I kind of liked the seemingly all-in-one experience that they could just simply click on that. They chose their date and time, and they went to my Kajabi thank you page. With Zoom, we're sending them to the Zoom webinar registration page, requiring them to register. Then you have the option of also, again, using Zapier to connect Zoom with Kajabi, because, see, keep in mind, if you send them to Zoom and they register through Zoom, you don't have their email address. You've got to use Zapier to transfer that information into Kajabi. The other decision point is, do you want Zoom to send them reminder emails, or do you want them generated and customized from your Kajabi site? So once again, kind of some of the decisions that you need to make. Now, when it comes to pricing, they have personal meetings, and that's meetings. That is not the webinar function. And obviously, they've got a free version for up to 40 minutes for up to 100 people. That's, remember, when you're doing Zoom meetings, is you see everybody's face on the screen. And everybody, you can mute everyone, but there's a lot. Generally, it's not desirable because it's also not something where people register in advance. So then you're looking at actually using the Zoom webinar function. And that is, hang on, there we go, webinar is using video webinars. So you need to have the Zoom meeting at $14.99 a month and the video webinar feature that starts at $40 a month. So here we're looking at $54.99 for 100 attendees. And just like I said with Demio, you might want to look at that and decide you want to have the availability of having 100 attendees, but you're going to pay a little bit more. And in my opinion, you're going to have to do a little bit more effort to get it connected to Kajabi. Now, the third and final option, and your most economical option, is using YouTube Live. And Kajabi definitely works very well with YouTube Live. But remember, as I said, Free generally means you're spending more time. And I think once you get into a flow, if you have a good checklist that you follow and you do it on a regular basis, YouTube Live probably could work really, really well for you. Now, typically, again, if you're doing a webinar and you want to enforce registration, you can do that through Kajabi by creating a webinar registration page, and then you're going to send them or give them access to a page where you're going to embed the live YouTube video, the live from YouTube. And all you need to do is with YouTube is you can see over here where we have this little video camera, and you click on that. You can obviously, as we always do with YouTube, upload a video, or you can go live. But what you're going to do is you're going to create a live event on YouTube, and you're going to mark it as unlisted. And you're going to mark it unlisted specifically if you want to make sure that it's only available for people who registered for it to watch it. And then they're going to give you a little video ID. You take that, you go back to Kajabi to this webinar room that you create on Kajabi, and you're going to say, I want to go live, and I'm going to embed this YouTube live with this video ID in this page. You send your registrants to that page, and then when you click go live on YouTube, it's going to be broadcast into that Kajabi page. Now, again, the benefit is it's free. You use Kajabi solely for the registration. So you're capturing all the information. You can very easily then send them the link to the webinar room. One of the things that a lot of people say is, well, I want to know if somebody registered and if they attended and watched the webinar. Well, you can do that because you could also require them that before they enter the webinar room, they have to enter their email address again. So one, you have them captured as registering. Two, you have them captured as entering the webinar room to watch the webinar. Then, of course, the YouTube video is automatically recorded, and then that can be added to your replay page. Actually, the webinar room then becomes your webinar replay page because that video is already embedded there. And you send your emails out from Kajabi to encourage people who maybe missed it to go to that page for the replay. Check out the starter kit. Just go to deannaf.me/starter kit to get your free starter kit from Amy. And we'll be talking about that a little bit more on other shows coming along. So unless there are any questions, I am going to wrap up for today. And thank you so much for watching. You're watching on the replay, and you had any questions about Demio, Zoom webinar, or YouTube Live, I'd be happy to answer them. Just go ahead and place them in the comments. And until next week, I hope you have a fantastic week, and hope you will have a great weekend as well. Take care. Bye-bye.